Hey guys, welcome to the beautiful city of Pattaya, Thailand. And it is a beautiful city in terms of its location, the people, expats and locals are all really fantastic. Excited to meet everybody that I've been meeting. And of course the sunsets. You can't beat a coastal city on a sunset, or with a sunset. And in today's video we're going to take a look at the budgeting process to travel to Southeast Asia. And the first example is going to be for the Philippines, because that's really where this budget process started. And then on the second video, I'm going to jump in and take a look at a comparison between the Philippines and Thailand to see what kind of differences there are. And it adds up. It's quite sizable as far as cost of living goes. So with that, let's go take a look at the computer. We'll see you at the other side. So I might as well just jump right into it. The first part is Philippines part one. It's about how to build the spreadsheet and what sort of foundation to it is. And the second part is going to be on Thailand and what I've experienced as I've been in Thailand as far as monthly expenses go. So to begin with, about 4 years ago, I saw a vlogger in the Philippines, Mike from My Philippine Journey. He had a pretty fancy small spreadsheet which spelled out some of the costs that you could expect when you go to the Philippines. And I'd been hearing that you could be in the Philippines for less than $1,000 per month. Some guys were claiming 600 a month. I really wanted to see if it was realistic and if it's feasible and what kind of life you could live. So I started investigating other vloggers, and probably about 20 or 30 altogether, one of which is Enrique, who put down some really explicit detail on his spreadsheets. They're all good. There's no doubt about it. I was very happy to get that information. But what I found is when you take a look at this column here with the fixed and the variable expenses, and some variables are in the fixed line, and there's a reason for that. But these are the ones, someone might call it rent, someone else would call it housing, but housing might include electric. So I just really broke it down to this, but these were the common terms that were used. I had a list of around 25 of these, and I pared it down just to what you see here. So it's to avoid any kind of redundancies on that. And then for the variables, we have to take a look at, well, everybody always has miscellaneous expenses. I happen to drink a lot of coffee, so that should be factored into it. I know a lot of coffee drinkers. Dining out, some people like to dine out more than others. Entertainment, any kind of entertainment. A factor which I did not plan on when I went to the Philippines was girlfriend. Right, there's a cost there, and it's definitely a cost in Thailand. So I want to talk about that as well. Other factors here are sports, gym, golf, if you go for it, mass transit, motorcycle if you get one, taxis, maintenance, travel, Airbnb and Agoda. Something I added here was debt payment at the time. I was paying $200 on consolidated loans, and child support, which I don't have, but other people do. So that needs to be factored into this. So on this, you go through the planning stage. And what I learned in the Philippines is you can expect rent under 500, and then electric, cable, they're all kind of static, pretty much the same. But I had a U.S. phone, which I had to maintain, and also in the Philippines, you got monthly phone load, which included some of the internet. So there's a little bit of a crossover there. Health and Medicare. In the Philippines, there is no health requirement. So that was really self-medication. Self-insurance, if you'll have it, which I have right here. VPN, I did not have one in the Philippines. I never needed it, but I do have one now. I don't know if it's really all that valuable. Water, that's an expense you have to consider. Groceries, I figured if I was spending money going out to eat, that this is more than enough money, and it proved to be right. It was not that expensive. Visa renewal in the Philippines averages around $1 a day. I only plan $10 a month. And laundry. All right, laundry in the Philippines probably costs less than $20 per month. So I've already gone through some of these factors down below. And always when you're planning this, you want to take a look at the what ifs. So what if electric was more? All right, I'd been hearing anywhere between $60 and $100 for electric. So, we'll do a little bit of scenario playing on that as well. So then you begin to start taking a look, well, what are my sources of income? It's really important here, especially if you're in your 20s, and if you're planning for retirement in your 60s or 70s, you need to be taking a look at what's at your fingertips, what the reality is, and what your dreams are. So if you have a job in in the US, for instance, and if it pays $2,000 per month, when you get to the Philippines, are you going to continue that job? You may or you may not. Maybe you're planning on a complete change. The dreams could be, you put your number in there. A good example here is a friend of mine, Crazy Mike, and he knows I call him Crazy Mike so I can get away with it. At his fingertips, he's got Social Security, and he has $1,100 a month Social Security. It's gone up to about $1,200. That's the reality today. And the reality is it's going to stay around $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for the foreseeable future. Now, occasionally, Mike thinks it might make sense to go back and work for a few more years and make $20,000 per month. So, that's a dream category. That would fit onto the job here at $20,000 per month. I'll just put it in. So, that's something that you have to really factor in, the reality versus the dreams. And that becomes really important for the digital nomad. And when you start thinking about someone in their 20s, and I've got 2 kids in their 20s, they may want to think that they're going to start a consulting practice for YouTube SEO, and they might anticipate they'll make $2,000 per month. All right, that's what they're planning. The actual could be, $300 per month, and they're planning on the future of $20,000 per month. So, that's a little bit of a dream. And when I hear somebody say that they're planning on coming to Asia to start a YouTube channel, I support them 100%. I think it's great. Always support that dream. But you also have to combine that with the reality. It's not an easy run. So the digital nomad in the YouTube world is a challenge, but it can be done, and people do it. I know someone who's very, very successful. I started a YouTube channel about a year ago, and he had 100,000 views on one of his first couple videos. So, he just hit the right stroke with the right people there on that. So then, of course, you have consulting. And consulting is really important because if you have in your home country 7 clients and they pay you $3,000 a month, but you get to the new country and you can't service them well, you might be down to 3 customers, and that might only pay you $1,200 a month. So your mathematics can change pretty quickly on this. So these are the sort of things that you need to factor into it. I'm just going to leave Crazy Mike up here and give you his example on this. So what I'll do here is I'll go back and I'm going to add a couple columns to this. And what I did on my budget my process here was I went through this kind of an income scenario, but I also took an extra column and I made an emergency column. What happens if I lost everything? Okay, how much is it going to cost me to survive? And you can see in here I eliminated miscellaneous. I eliminated coffee. Dining it out went to, from 200 down to 20. I might be able to grab a beer once in a while and spend 60. A girlfriend I even budgeted 50 for. So mass transit was 30, just travel around less. My friend Mike has almost no travel, because his budget's that tight. So I found here that on an emergency basis, I could get by on about $870 per month. So I felt confident that I could do that. And then I went into the actuals. And in the actual world of living in the Philippines, I found that I could live in Cebu City and pay around $375 per month. So I overestimated what it would cost. And that was great. And not only that, but it was an Airbnb. So my cable and internet and my electric were included. So I still had my phone in the U.S. I still had the phone load in the Philippines. I upped that. I had a dual SIM card, so I activated both of those. And then, now I don't have Medicare, so that wasn't an issue. Self-insurance costs about $25 per month. The water, everything else sort of fits in. I found that groceries were not that high, but I still left it at 50 for this. So, and then in miscellaneous, you can see where those numbers change. The one thing that's different here is the girlfriend number. And girlfriends can cost up to $250 per month in the Philippines. If you really think about your fixed expenses, the actuals, they're not really going to change. If you add somebody to live there, it might add, $20 or $30 per month, but it's really not much. But then they have, needs, right? They have to eat, and they have personal needs or family needs that you have to help them, take care of. So that's something to consider. It's a big difference between the Philippines and and Thailand, I'm finding out. So we'll get into that on the next video. So what I've done is, just on this example, I've summarized the columns here. I'll shrink this a bit. So the reality is the column that's important, which is 1,200. And then the actual is also the important column. So, and that is 1,155. So you can see from this that if Mike is living on $1,200 per month and his budget is at $1,155 a month, it leaves him $45 to live on. And that comfort index, and this simply taking this number, right, and dividing by 1,200, and it's a percentage. So out of 100% of his income, he only has 4% left over, so he doesn't have much room to breathe. You want to try to get that if you can. I'll just show you what happens if Mike suddenly goes to $2,500 a month. That comfort index now drops to 46%. All right, so that's something that certainly is more manageable for him to have a comfortable life on. He can still pay all his expenses, but that gives him an extra, $1,300 that he can use for travel, for emergencies. He could save some money for the future. There's a lot of things that you could do with that extra money. So, and again, it takes it from 96% down to 46%. So that's a pretty comfortable nut to swallow. Part of this budget planning is travel and Airbnb and Agoda. I really like those two services for my travel plans. So I calculated that my travel would be around 8+ days per month. That's 2 trips per month or one longer trip. I would assume $50 of transportation for each person per trip. So in the Philippines, it's very inexpensive to travel by ferry because 7,000 islands, all connected by ferries. You could go from one island to another for between $3 and $25. So it's really not that expensive to get anywhere. And then also I assumed hotels. How much is that going to cost? Hotels is really interesting. You could try to get a hotel for $16 a night, and you can get it, and they're not so bad, especially the Red Planet. I think they're a little bit more expensive, but they're a great hotel to stay in if you're looking for that kind of a hotel. But when you go to a remote island, some of those islands are going to have a little bit more rustic environments. You might find the Philippine bathroom in there. You never know, but it's not bad. It's it's a place to stay, and you're really there for the experience, not the amenities on that kind of a budget. And if you add somebody onto this, this travel plan could double. So what I found is that $450 per month allowed me to travel just about anywhere that I wanted to go in the Philippines. So what this does is, I hope this helps you gain some sort of an understanding on the budget process for how to go about it. I think that the items here are very consistent from country to country, from person to person. And again, this is a budget, not for a vacation, but it's a budget for long-term living. So retirement living, you can see that on the income side, you have IRAs, you have pensions, you have investments, you have cash and savings. Some people have to teach English. I know a vlogger that teaches English because it helps him make his ends meet. So those are all sorts of things that you can do to generate income. But you have to go with what's on my fingertips, what's the reality, and what are your dreams. So with that, I hope that anybody that's trying to plan their budgets in the future can use this as a tool to help them in their travel planning. All right, have a great plan, great travels, and see you later on the next video.